في السيستمز قصدك قبل الامتحان؟
يعني في النهاية
لا، السنترال نيرفس سيستم مع سبيشال سنسز، يعني عندي بعد الفيجن اند هيرنج.
اي يعني هذا يكون اخر شيء.
اخر شيء هذا بيكونون الفيجن الهيرنج مع النيرفس سيستم بيكون اخر شيء. اوكي let's start with today's. هم نزلوا لكم الدرجات لا؟ اوكي احنا نبي ان this was a midterm ها؟ قدامي الفاينل. اوكي احنا نبغى نشوف نفسنا ونعدل اخطائنا. اوكي so see where your mistakes are. Everybody can evaluate himself or herself. زين؟ فأنا بقيم نفسي وأنا عارف أخطائي وين أخطائي عندي على أساس بعدلهم. Okay? So for the final we should rectify ourselves. Okay? So يعني أنا ما أبي ترى أني أقول حق نفسي والله أنا فوق في السبعينات بس أقدر أجيب، ما أقدر أجيب أكثر. No. أي واحد جاب فوق ال90 أنا أقدر أجيب فوق ال90. Okay? I don't want you to say that no I can't do it. Yes I can, yes I can. فبشوف وين أخطائي وبعدل نفسي. Can I get above 95? Yes I can. She can, I can. Okay? لو أخذتوها بالطريقة هذه as a challenge, then yes you can make yourself much better. بشوف where are the defects, I'll rectify my defects, and yes I can prove myself to be a better person. Okay? So just have a look at yourself. Okay? تعرفون I'll just give you an example ها. أنا اللي كنت في المدرسة، المدرس اللي كان عندنا حق اللغة العربية you know the one who used to teach us person. على الفكرة اللي أبيها if you take a challenge for yourself and you say I can do it يعني I can do it. I can become a better person, yes I can. زين ساعتها you will prove yourself to be a better person. Okay? There are many things you can do. Okay? أنا ترى لأن كنت صغير كنت أكتب باليسار. Still I work with the left. الوالد الله يرحمه كان يقول لي لا ناصر يمين. كل مرة يشوفني أيام زمان تعرفون كلها باليمين لا؟ بديت بعدين باليمين، زين تتعب اكملها باليسار، متعود على اليسار، يشوفني يقول لي ناصر. بعدين تركت اليسار، قمت اكتب اليمين، زين وصلت للدرجه اللي وصلت اول ثانوي خطيت المصحف باليمين، خطيته في البيت، كنت اقعد العصريه خطيته باليد باليمين مو باليسار. اوكي so can we take a challenge? Yes we can. لهالدرجه I do every other things باليسار، بس الاكل والكتابه كل هذا كل باليمين. اوكي because when we're young لا كله يمين. But you can take challenges and you can make a difference. And I'm not saying because that is me, no. I'm saying it that you take a challenge and prove yourself you can do it. Okay? هذه اللي أنا أبيه. أنا باخذ الchallenge and I'll prove yes I'm a better person. Then you'll prove yourself. Okay? Now let's come back to our topic. We'll have a look today at the central nervous system. Basically we'll look at the nerves without the brain and the spinal cord. The brain, the details of the brain and the spinal cord inshallah الأسبوع الجاي. Okay? So we'll look at that one. So we'll look at the structural classification of the nervous system. We'll define the central nervous system and the peripheral nervous system. We'll look at the neurons and the helping cells which are neuroglial cells. فأنا عندي neurons وعندي helping cells which are neuroglial cells. Okay? And we'll look at the main structure of a neuron. Now basically when I look at the central nervous system, I'm looking at the brain and the spinal cord. Okay? When I look at the cranial nerves are the nerves that come out from my brain. When I look at the peripheral nerve are the nerves that spring out of the spinal cord. Okay? ففي عندي cranial nerves وعندي spinal nerves. Okay? Those are the ones which come out from my brain. I'll show you inshallah next week. And then we'll look at the nerves which are springing out of the spinal cord. وتتذكروا قلت لكم in the spinal cord there's a difference where it ends in an adult and in a child. We said in an adult the spinal cord ends at L1 L2. Okay? بينما in children it ends at L3 L4. Okay? مو معناته إذا خلاص انتهى مكان بينتهي السباينال كورد then I have nerve roots. في عندي أعصاب نازلة. These are nerve roots from here. Okay? Now, why is this information important? Because when you go for lumbar puncture to take a sample of cerebrospinal fluid, okay, then your needle should not go in where the spinal cord is. Yani, if it was an adult, then you'll go to L3, L4 or L4, L5. In a child, no, you'll go between L4, L5, but not above. Why is this difference? Because the growing is fast. Okay? So since the growing is fast, صار الفرق عندي هنا over here. مو بأن يكون هذا أقصر وهذاك أطول يكون عندي. Okay? Now let's have a look at these ones. So whenever you look at something that is sensory input, you see something, information goes in, there's an interpretation of that information in your brain, and then your brain takes a decision, and that comes as a motor output. Suppose if I take the same example, it has gone, there are neurons over here, and the one that goes afferent and efferent neurons, the one that goes to my brain, then there's an interpretation over here, and then suppose you want to move your limb, upper limb or lower limb, then an action is taken. This differs from reflex. هنا عندي 3 neurons اللي بيطلع عندي interneuron واللي ينزل. بس إن reflex is a quick action. Okay? Reflex شوفوا الحين لو أنا حطيت هنا ايدي نفترض this is very very hot, and by mistake I put my hand, immediately I withdraw my hand. هني 2 neurons. knee jerk 2 neurons. مرة واحدة يصير عندي reflex. Okay, so that will handle it. أعتقد physiology will handle that one. So we'll see how those are. Here is your, this is your brain, this is the cerebrum, and this is the cerebellum. This is your spinal cord, and these coming out of the spinal cord are your peripheral nerves, and the nerves that come out over here are the cranial nerves. Next week, inshallah, this is your cerebral hemisphere. This is your cerebellum. Cerebellum takes care of your balance assassin. Okay. Cerebrum has different centers in it for thinking, for interpretation, for vision, short-term, long-term memories, and so on. And there is a communication between these centers in the brain. Okay, and so we'll have a look at what we have in the brain, inshallah, next week, and we'll see how we can. وعندي السيل سايز والجايرايز، السلكس هذه اللي عندي اللي نازل اللي تحت، والجايرس اللي طالع لفوق. So التصاعيد اللي عندنا هذولين cell size and gyri that you will see in the brain. Okay. Now, for our nerves, from the central nervous system قلنا عندي peripheral nervous system, peripheral nervous system, cranial nerves and spinal nerves, and the sensory and motor. These are for the organ, sense of organs, but this one for the motor, I'll have somatic and I'll have autonomic. الautonomic بيصير عندي حق sympathetic and parasympathetic. Okay, we'll come to the autonomic in that sense, but autonomic, if you want to understand them better, if somebody suppose has a knife in his hand, tries to kill her, okay, she's running away from this person who has a knife, كل sympathetic شغال عندها. Okay, كل sympathetic شغال عندها. But on the other hand, if it's a weekend and her mom made a meal which is her favorite, أحلى أكلة عندها، زين، she takes her meal, she relaxes, goes to bed very relaxed، كل parasympathetic شغال عندها. Now, if when she is running, you know, عيونها بتكون مبندة ولا كذي مفتوحة؟ كل sympathetic شغال. بس بعد الوجبة الدسمة والحلوة هذه عيونها شو بصير؟ she will feel sleepy and she will go to bed. Okay? بالطريقة هذه evaluate all the system. Look at your respiratory system. When you're running, what is happening, and when you're relaxed, what is happening. This will give you gradually, if you take every system, بتشوفون فعلا يطبق زين fight or flight. Okay, so either you are running or you are relaxed. In both ways you can judge yourself for the sympathetic and parasympathetic. هذه بنجي عليه يعني لو جينا على autonomic nervous system. Okay, then we'll have a look at and this system. Peripheral nervous system عندي قلنا spinal nerves وعندي cranial nerves. Cranial nerves, the to and from the brain, spinal nerves to and from the spinal cord. Okay, and the number differs for the cranial nerves than the spinal nerves. Okay, now if I look at the afferents, which are sensory, nerve fibers carry information to the central nervous system, as we had the example that you see something, and then in the somatic, visceral. Somatic afferent fibers carry information from the skin, skeletal muscles and joints. They are afferent taking. Visceral from the organ. Viscera معناته organ. So those that go from the organs over here. Motor are efferent divisions. Nerve fibers carry impulses away from the central nervous system. Now, the nuclei that we have, nuclei aggregation تجمع يعني of nuclei in the brain, that is nuclei, aggregation of nuclei outside the brain بسميه ganglia. فلو كان التجمع عندي خارج البرين بسميه جانجليا، within the brain اسميه نيوكلياي. اوكي. الكتب القديمه كانت تكتب الاثنين جانجليا، فاحتمال تقرون في الكتاب مكتوب كان في البرين راح تقول لي جانجليا، او هالايام في كتب they write down as aggregation of nuclei بين قوسين يكتبون جانجليا. ليش يكتبونه بين قوسين؟ الاسم القديم كان جانجليا. Okay. Now this aggregation, if it is outside the brain, it is ganglia. Well, if it is inside, then it is nuclei. Okay. لا 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 لا. Ganglia تجمع حق neurons, nuclei of the brain. يعني cells, brain cells. There are two ganglia here, huh? هي هذه لو بتشوفون body of the vertebra زين على اطرافها في nerves، ها في دوائر بتشوفون، ها these are ganglias. What she is talking about, you sometimes get ganglia here, that's also ganglion. All right, that one, that ganglia is different from this ganglia. Okay, she has a ganglion over here, that's why she asked. This is the ganglia, but that one is ganglia aggregation, not of fluid, no, of nuclei outside the brain. تفضلي. شوفوا الحين the meaning of afferent and efferents. Okay, if I take you back over here, look over here, sensory receptors, effectors, huh? In afferents when you go up, efferents when you come back. You take the information, when you go to the brain, there is an interpretation, and then that has to go back to the effector. Afferents, وبعدين efferent. Okay? Generally, this is how we use them. شوفوا هذه الحين, let me check it over here. Somatic sensory afferent fibers carrying information from the skin, skeletal muscles, so and so to the joints, carrying information. Visceral afferents fibers carrying information from the organs. Afferents carrying, efferents when the information comes back. Okay, so when I go back to my brain, if it is afferent كان عندي somatic ولا afferent كان عندي visceral. Okay, efferents الeffect في الحالة هذه, the nerve fibers carry information away from the central nervous system. When I go for an action, I'm away, أروح حق الgland ولا أروح حق skeletal muscle. This is over here, this is the efferent, الeffector. Okay, so afferent goes to my brain, efferent منها بيجيني شو اللي يسوي. Okay. Now عندي في الحالة هذه عندي two subdivisions حقتها حق الموتر, عندي somatic وعندي autonomic. Somatic deals with voluntary muscles. Okay, voluntary muscles are somatic, the one that you have control over yourself. Autonomic is the one that I don't have control on it. Okay, اللي قلنا في عندي sympathetic and parasympathetic. أنا ما أقدر أسيطر على الsympathetic والparasympathetic, بينما على على الsomatic I can, because that is voluntary. Okay, so we have voluntary which is somatic, autonomic اللي بيكون عندي فيها sympathetic and parasympathetic. This is automatically controlled, so I have no control on this one. Okay. Now, the nervous tissue is of two types. I have neurons and I have neuroglial cells. Neuroglial cells ممكن نسميه glial cells أو glia. Okay. Neuroglial cells are helping cells. Neurons are the main cells that take the information to and from the brain. Okay. فاحنا بنشوف الاثنين, بنشوف النيوروغليال cells وانواعها. Okay. and then neuroglia are supporting cells. If I look at the neuroglial cells, I have them as 6 types. في كتب تكتب 5. 4 of these are in the central nervous system, 2 of these are in the peripheral nervous system. خلي في الاعتبار astrocytes, microglial cells, ependymal cells and oligodendrocytes هذولين في البرين والسباينال كورد central nervous system. الباقي الشوان cells وساتلايت cells these are in the peripheral nervous system. فهذا مهم ان انا افرق بيناتهم that which are in the central nervous system and which are in the peripheral. Okay, مع ان I have myelin making cells in the central nervous system and I have myelin making cells in the peripheral nervous system, but these are 2 different cells. Okay, so I should differentiate between the myelin making cells over here, oligodendrocytes and Schwann cells. Okay, فبشوف الاثنين فلذلك معناته I need to know all of these ones separately. Astrocytes, there are star shaped cells. They anchor neurons to the blood capillaries. They determine the permeability exchange between the blood capillaries and the neurons. They protect the neurons from harmful substances and they control the chemical environment for the brain. هذولين كلهم these are helping cells. These are not the neurons, these are neuroglial cells. Right? Now, here, if you look at this hand like this is the neuron, is it? These are the dendrites over here. This guy is sitting over here, monitoring all this thing, taking care of the harmful substances and so on. Is it? Harvey, this is an astrocyte. Okay. Now, I have microglial cells. Microglial cells, they monitor the health of the neuron and they dispose of the debris as well. Okay. Microglial, here is a microglial. This is one neuron, this is another neuron. Okay. If you look at this one, it's attached to this neuron and this one. Okay. So they phagocytize, they eat up the debris. Okay. Now, if I look at the ependymal cells, they line cavities where there is cerebrospinal fluid. Okay. So the cavities of the cerebrospinal fluid in the jism, I will look at the surrounding of the brain, spinal cord. I look at the center of the spinal cord, central canal. Again, بعد يكون في CSF, cerebrospinal fluid. So all those places where there is cerebrospinal fluid, they line over here the cavity, and the cavity over here is filled with CSF, cerebrospinal fluid. So wherever you have the cerebrospinal fluid, you aspirate cerebrospinal fluid, that cavity, what type of cells are there? It's ependymal cells. Okay. For ependymal cells, they line cerebrospinal fluid cavities in the 3rd ventricle and the 4th ventricle في البرين مكان اللي بيتكون عندي cerebrospinal fluid عندي السنتر اوف ذا سباينال كورد ينزل عندي تحت بعد في الوسط بيمر فيها سائل cerebrospinal fluid, so the cavities are with ependymal cells. Okay. Oligodendrocytes, okay, they produce myelin, but where? In the central nervous system. So if I look at the oligodendrocytes, شوفوا الحين هذه المايلين is on this nerve. بس شوفوا هني the oligodendrocytes in the central nervous system, السيل مي قاعدة على النيرف فايبر، قاعدة هني كونت myelin حق الفايبر and this fiber and so on. So the cell is not sitting on the axon for the nerve, which is not the case in peripheral nervous system. In peripheral nervous system, here the cells are sitting on the nerve fiber. These are Schwann cells. Schwann cells nuclei will be sitting on the nerve fiber in a peripheral nervous system. في central nervous system oligodendrocytes قاعدة كذي برا زين produces myelin to this fiber and this fiber and so on. بس هي بنفسها قاعدة هني. In peripheral nervous system, it sits on the nerve fiber and makes the myelin on this one. فأنا fibers in the myelinated fibers in the peripheral nervous system وعندي fibers which are unmyelinated. فعندي myelinated fibers وعندي unmyelinated fibers. والmyelin over here في peripheral nervous system, it speeds up the impulses to go. So the message goes much faster because of the myelin that I have here. Okay? Now الفروقات هنا اللي بينات ال types of the helping cells لازم نعرفهم, whether these are, you call them as glial cells, okay, neuroglial cells, glia, okay, it's all the same. These are the helping cells. A neuron is the nerve fiber itself. A neuron, is it? A neuron نفسه في cell body في البروسيسز. أنا اليد لو خليتها كذي, this is the neuron, this is the cell body, بيكون فيها nucleus, النيوكليوس بيكون فيها nucleolus. هالأصابع هذولين these are the dendrites. واحدة اللي تطلع هني this is the axon. الأصابع الصغيرة dendrites تتواصل مع النيوكليوس ثانية dendrites مالتها مع هذه. أوكي؟ بس بعدين باخذ المعلومة through this axon بوصلها إلى تحت. فأستلم المعلومات من الدندرايتس and the axon takes the information. Okay? So if you look at these one, cell body and processes, cell body is the metabolic center of the neuron. في nucleus with large nucleolus. في cell bodies, في rough endoplasmic reticulum, في neurofibrils. Here, this is the cell body. There is a nucleus, and so on. And this is the axon that is taking place. And this is myelinated fiber. This is the Schwann cell, and here is the nucleus مالت الشوان cell. تشوفونه؟ الجاب junctions هذولين بيسرعون لي المسج to go. So they make the impulse go faster. Okay? So this one is a myelinated fiber. Okay? Till I reach over here to the end where a neurotransmitter is there, so that then the message could be taken to the next one. This one is myelinated fiber. This one is unmyelinated fiber. Okay. شوفوا الفرق بين الاثنين. Okay. هذه unmyelinated, هذه myelinated. Okay. This one is the one you have in your book. These are the dendrites. This is the cell body. You can see the cell body clearly. واللي يكون أمتن شيء مع هذا this is the axon. والصغار بيكونوا dendrites. Okay. Now, the dendrites they conduct impulses towards the cell body. Axons conduct impulses from the cell body onwards. End of axon there are terminals which contains vesicles with with neurotransmitters. Okay. Axon terminals are separated from the next neuron by a gap junction. So في عندي synaptic cleft and the synapse. The gap between the axon terminals is known as synaptic cleft بيكون عندي neurotransmitters. A synapse, functional junction between the nerve and the other nerve impulses which is transmitted here. النيوروترانسميترز والجاب junctions هذه physiology راح يعطيكم التفاصيل عليها. Okay? So physiology will deal with the nerve fibers, neurotransmitters. هذه physiology بيسوي.
يعني دكتور مصعب شنو function الساينابس؟
Synapse, when I take the message, depends on the neurotransmitter I have over here to relate that one to the next. اساس الاكشن بيصير عندي. This is the junction. لو كنت على عضله مثلا اخذت المعلومه جيت على muscle and you need an action on that muscle. This is where neurotransmitter is. Suppose it is it is a gland. It's not a muscle. Okay, so it depends where the transmission goes. Okay, هذه المايلين sheath. قلنا Schwann cells in the peripheral nervous system wraps the axons. Okay, it's like لو احللها it looks like a fatty layer. Okay, oligodendrocytes are the ones that produce myelin around the axons في peripheral nervous system. شوفوا الحين في central nervous system oligodendrocytes Schwann cells في peripheral nervous system. Okay, هنا بعد بيصير عندي myelin هنا بعد بيصير عندي myelin بس oligodendrocyte في central nervous system Schwann cells في peripheral nervous system. Okay, this is the nerve fiber and this is the myelin cells which is Schwann cell and it has a nucleus over here. لو بسوي على في الهيستولوجي you can see the nucleus sitting over in a magnified area. زين فمعناته عندي fibers which are myelinated fibers وعندي fibers which are unmyelinated fibers. Okay, قلت لكم عندي nuclei clusters of cell bodies in the central nervous system, ganglia collections of cell bodies outside the central nervous system in the peripheral nervous system. Okay, tracts bundles of nerve fibers in the central nervous systems. In nerves بيكون fibers في PNS, white matter و grey matter في البرين بنشوفها. White matter collection of myelinated fibers because this is white matter. Grey matter is mostly النيرفز اللي فيها these are unmyelinated nerve fibers. فعندي white matter و grey matter. هذا إن شاء الله next week نمسك البرين والspinal cord and we'll look at the white matter and the grey matter in the spinal cord. Okay, here بعد هذا بنحللها بعدين. إنزين this is the information going up. Okay, over here there will be interneuron and then the information goes down. This is a motor neuron for an action to take place. So this is the cycle, classical cycle for a neuron. قلت لكم except if it is a reflex بدل ما يكون عندي 3 نيورونز يكون عندي 2 نيورونز لأنه بيكون أسرع. Okay, reflex like a knee jerk for example, or I told you if I put my hand on a hot plate then the difference will be faster. عندي حق النيورونز I have multipolar neurons and the bipolar neurons and the unipolar neurons. We have to know the differences with examples. Okay, so we have to know the most common one is the multipolar. The most common one you have in the body are the multipolar neurons. الحين if I look at the multipolar neurons I want you to look at where do we have them. Bipolar, this is, and one dendrite. When you go in these sense organs such as nose and eye, they are rare in adults. We see them in children and they look like this one. Okay, شوفوا الحين فرقنا بين هذه axon and dendrites over here. This one is a unipolar, have one short single process. Sensory neurons found in the peripheral nervous ganglia conduct impulses both towards and away from the cell body and it looks, here's the cell body sitting outside, هذه واحد صاير. Now I will need from you that you should study more about حتى كتابكم بيعطيكم what is the difference and where do you find them. هذه يعني بعد لو أنا أشوفها well it's a good, I can make a question out of it easily. يعني unipolar وين عندي, bipolar وين عندي, multipolar وين عندي. Okay, شوف الفروق بيناتهم and then where do we have them. Okay, these are the functional properties of the neurons. They respond to stimuli, convert the nerve impulses and they conduct them, okay, whether it is a muscle or a gland. And thank you very much indeed. Okay. عندكم الويكند اقروا عنه شويه. الاسبوع الجاي ببني عليه على البرين اند سباينال كورد.
دكتور يوم الاحد بيكون اللاب عن شنو؟
اللعب بيكون على المسلز اوف ذا نيك هيد نيك الباقي. هذه اللي عندهم اليوم الابر ليم واللور ليم. الاسبوع الجاي تكمله حق اذر مسلز.
دكتور الفاينل بيكون مالتيبل تشويس بعد؟
نعم؟
الفاينل بيكون بعد مالتيبل تشويس؟
اي مالتيبل اكثر.
بيكونوا 100 سؤال او 75؟
لا انا اقترحت عليهم 75. اوكي لان في عندي وصفي بعد لا. ف